The following presentation is a production of WLWstudios.com. You are listening to The Midnight Jury on WLWstudios.com, along with the Midnight Jury feeds on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and TuneIn Radio. We are back broadcasting out of the fighting city of Philadelphia, and I am one of your hosts, the 21st century broadcasting marvel, Midnight Mike Norenganger.
I am the Sandlot Henning.
Yeah, you're the last week, this week, your names haven't been too off the wall crazy.
No, this one I thought actually kind of worse.
Sandlot Henning?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you said, what year is this movie?
1993.
1993, this movie comes out. It's called The Sandlot. It has a lot of child stars of that time. So, like, there was one kid who was in The Sandlot who was in The Mighty Ducks. There was
that fat kid. What, right?
No.
Sorry,
It was the black kid.
Yes, the Mighty Ducks had their own fat kid.
Correct, Goldberg.
Yeah,
the goalie.
But the fat kid from The Sandlot was in the Big Green.
I believe so. And one of them, wasn't he also in Heavyweights or Little Giants or something like that?
I don't think so, but definitely the Big Green, where he was like the goalie.
Okay.
Wasn't that a Nickelodeon movie? The Big Green.
I'm not really sure.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I remember, like, in my head, I can hear, like, the name, like, kind of rings a bell.
I think it was called The Big Green, but it was, like, kind of a soccer. I never actually saw it, but, like, yes, you're right. Among them was the freckled, red-haired, fat kid, was in many kids' movies of the era.
Okay, and then the one thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and, well, first off, I want to point out that once again, we have our sneak peek video cast of this intro going out. If you haven't checked it out and you're a normal listener to our show, you can go onto YouTube and actually now check out some of our intros via videocast, which is awesome. And anybody watching on that videocast would know I am dressed for the occasion to do The Sandlot. What are you doing?
I'm
just being a wise ass.
Video.
Okay.
Video people.
I got my Yankee gear on, and this all brings it all back to the fact that for me, and I think for almost what's amazing about this movie is any guy who's between the ages of, I don't know, let's say 28 and older can really relate to this movie. Because no matter what, the movie takes place in the 60s, but it's almost every boy's childhood. Like running out, playing ball with your friends in the street or at a field or wherever you could find a place to play ball, running home for dinner before it gets dark. The parents calling out. This movie always brings me back very much to my childhood because when we could go out and play baseball, when we could go out and play football, like that's what we did. And we had fields right behind my house. We had a baseball field that we could always play on. We had an actual soccer field that we could play both football and soccer on.
Yeah.
And we played right in the street. And I personally think that anybody over the age of 28, because I don't know if kids nowadays go out and play. Like, do they go out and play as much as we used to back in the 80s?
Well, I was going to say that my childhood was very much, and it's like, yeah, sure, your childhood was like The Sandlot, but like, I can really safely say, like it was, and my group of friends, my neighborhood friends, myself and my friend Darius, we both loved baseball, so we sort of like that love of baseball. We kind of swept everybody else up in that, and everybody else everybody else. Baseball was a daily thing that we did, like it was a built-in part of every single day. So I really know what I know what it's like to be a kid over the summer and having baseball as such a fundamental part of your everyday existence. And like we didn't have, like, you grew up in front of the the middle school that we went to, which was
Yeah.
which is awesome. The fact that you had like the access to those fields on the day, on
It was harder to get the school behind us had an upper field and a lower field.
Yeah.
It was a lot harder to get like games going on the upper field because there'd be whether it's school or the little league sometimes would use those fields, but the lower field we could play all day.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And no one ever bothered us. And like I said, there's something about this movie is just so. I feel like I'm watching me and my friends.
No, I know what you mean, and we didn't have any access to really any fields in my neighborhood, so we kind of had to make like makeshift. There was this one really big lawn, but it wasn't like a big square; it was a big rectangle. So it was almost like, the outfield in baseball is. How would you describe that shape?
Like almost like a half or a quarter circle.
A quarter circle, exactly. And the field gets bigger from home plate outward.
Yeah.
From home plate to the home run line, it was just one like rectangle. But it was the best place.
So it was like kind of like almost like a stickball.
Yeah, exactly.
Because stickball's played in like a area like that.
Exactly. So every baseball game that we had, it was in between the buildings of our complex. So it was always in a rectangular setting. And we also played stickball and certainly the pool was a big part of our growing up. So yeah, it was this movie like really is a special movie, I guess, to both of us. And I was actually kind of surprised to.
Well, that's why we always call this show, because we do 80s and 90s pro wrestling, pop culture, horror. But it's the reason I like kind of dubbed it the last old school generation is because when I grew up, there were no computers. Your TV had 13 channels. You were lucky if you had extra channels. Like when I was growing up, cable was like just kind of starting. You were more likely to have UHF than have cable. And I remember when we finally got MTV and we finally got like Nickelodeon and stuff like that. But even when you had cable, you had like 30 channels.
Yeah.
Everything was more. Let's get home from school so that we could go out and play.
Yeah.
And it was always go out and play. And then over the summer, I mean, I know you know it, but like that just feeling of all day just being out, playing baseball, going to a pool, this movie, it didn't change much from the 40s, the 30s to the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Even into the 90s.
And just like
But then it all changed, and I just don't think it's the same.
The camaraderie and the closeness that I had with my neighborhood friends.
It's almost like you were a gang with a territory.
Yeah, and it was the fact that you were with each other as often as you'd be with a sibling made it more than like a friendship too. It was like they were siblings of yours, because you guys didn't choose to all live in the same neighborhood. That's just the way fate kind of made it happen. And this is the same way you don't choose your siblings, so it's like a little bit different. The people that you grow up with in your neighborhood, it's like you may not have been friends with them otherwise, but it's like you develop it's like you don't deal with war in your neighborhood, but like it's like being in the army. It's like it's a very close-knit experience. Unlike when you go to school and it's like you kind of get to pick and choose who your friends are.
And like little cliques are formed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's much more like real, like on the neighborhood level. And this movie does such a good job of portraying that sort of like family bond and like the resistance to bringing somebody new in, but ultimately they like when they embrace him, like you feel like you're Scotty Smalls, and like it's just such a good. The movie is such a good. It's such a feel good experience to watch. And to answer your question.
Well, I also want to point out that with bringing a new kid into the fold, I kind of wish that this movie had come out, like, by the time this movie came out, I was 13, 14 years old. But during my, childhood, I kind of wish this movie was around because I don't know how I treated new kids. I don't remember specifically just shitting on them or treating them like crap. But it kind of shows you, like, hey, like anybody could kind of become part of your crew. And the more you have, the more chance you have of having better games. More people for football, more people for baseball, more people for basketball, whatever you're playing.
Yeah, no, that viewed it very similarly to how Benny views it. It was like Hoi Ming, this tiny little Chinese boy who moved into the neighborhood, he was like very dorky, very nerdy. Like he wasn't into sports, but it was like, Hoi Ming, we need you to play baseball. We will teach you how to play baseball.
We had an Indian kid.
Yeah, we would try to
that we brought into our group.
Yeah, we would try to bring anybody. Again, race doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's like it's your family regardless of color, creed. It's just, I don't know. And but to address an earlier point, you asked if kids today have that same sort of like neighborhood dynamic. I don't think so. And then again, I'm not around during the day when kids, like when I used to be playing outside. I may be working or living an adult life, but there doesn't seem to be the same type of activity outside.
And if there was, I feel like most kids would instead of going out and playing baseball, why don't we go play MLB The Show?
Yeah.
And instead of going out and playing football, why don't we go play Madden?
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people are, could you fucking imagine if back in the day when we were all playing baseball, whatever, between each batter, everyone needed to check their Facebook and Twitter account?
No, yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I understand most kids maybe shouldn't have those things. But, I see kids so young with iPhones and smartphones nowadays, and it's like, that's such a distraction from life.
Well, absolutely.
Now that we're adults, a distraction from life is great.
Yeah.
We need that. But as a kid, I think that would have partially ruined my childhood.
Well, it puts distractions is a good way to put it, but like in between each interaction with the person actually in front of you, it's almost like there's this side interaction that you're equally or more so committed to on your phone. And I think it destroys the dynamic at dinner when like there's so many families that go out with their parents that go out with their kids, and their kids the whole time are sitting there on their phone.
Oh yeah.
And I guess a lot of parents are like, well, at least they're not fighting and stuff. But it's like,
I don't mean to call out my sister, but whenever her daughter, who's like 2 years old, gets antsy, like while we're eating or anytime we're whatever, and she needs her to kind of calm down a little bit, she puts an iPhone in front of her and lets her watch videos and like play like little like tappy games. Yeah, and it's like she's 2 years old. Like she's gonna learn. You're basically teaching your child that I want you to basically if you're bored with dinner or you're bored with family time, you could just be on your phone.
Yeah, and also,
and I don't agree. That's one thing. I mean, my mom or my sister's a great mom, like no doubt. But that's the one thing that I won't be doing with my child.
Well, it's like in the past, instead of the little, the little girl or the little kid, 2-year-old kid, having to go on an iPhone, you'd have a grandparent like occupying their time for 10 minutes.
But not even that. Even if you don't have a grandparent, nobody before nowadays had iPhones to keep them busy. So you're actually, in my opinion, adding to the like ADHD problem by giving them these things that are just so sensory, so many like whatever. But I don't know. I just when we were kids, you had a little wooden xylophone and you hit on it.
Not at dinner, but they had like coloring books.
Yeah, or but something that is just not. You're just stuck in it.
Yeah, no. There's a term like it almost like overstimulates your senses.
Correct. Yeah.
And it really. Think about when you're watching a movie. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're invested in that movie, the setting around you completely melts away.
Correct.
So it's the same thing on your phone. When you're really tapped into what you're seeing on that screen, what's around you is so secondary. It's almost like animals don't experience that. They're always aware of their surroundings. I'm not sure if we're really meant to be so ignorant of what's going on around us, and I'm not sure it's had a positive effect as far as like social interaction goes.
I don't think it has at all had a positive effect on social.
Definitely
But
not.
either way, we're going to get more into this. We're going to get more into our childhoods. We're going to get more into the childhoods of this 1993 movie, which takes place in the 1960s, called The Sandlot, an old school childhood behavior. What do you got before I send us to that break? Oh, yeah.
wanted to
Bow to the Brutes.
Show off my shirt here. The Brutes are a wrestling tag team based out of North Carolina.
North Carolina,
right?
yeah, but they wrestle in the whole area. I think they come up as far as Maryland. I think they go, I think PA.
Yeah.
That's where we worked with them.
Yeah, no, we had a fun time working with the Brutes, but and we talked about them a lot on the Midnight Jury, but they're probably one of the most impressive tag teams on the independent scene, period. And I'm very proud to, once again, I'll show it in the video here. That is the Brute
See,
shirt.
that's some of the pluses you get from being able to watch the sneak peek video cast on YouTube.
And if you like that shirt,
You could probably
Mark James, who's one half of the Brutes, find him on Facebook, and you can.
I think on Twitter, their Twitter is @BookTheBrutes.
Yeah, so you can
could get in touch with them, and you could get a shirt. Check out some of the videos they have. They have a bunch of matches available on YouTube, and yeah. All right, so when we get back from this break, we are going to be doing 1993's The Sandlot. I'm excited, very excited to do this because I feel like it's just going to continue through this intro to bring us back to our childhood, which is kind of what this whole show is all about. So we will be back after our TV show theme of the week.
Talk to you then.